Hello guys and welcome back. Today I am filming my February wrap up. It's late because, well, it's 6 days into March as I'm filming this right now, but better late than never. So in March I read 2 books, a poetry collection and 2 graphic novels. So I'm going to start with the first book slash letter slash essay collection, which is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi. I feel like I'm always butchering his name. First off, I think I gave this 5 out of 5 stars because I absolutely love this. I thought it was spectacular. So this is a essay slash letter collection. It's the author writing a letter to his teenage son. I think his son is about 15 or 16 years old, and he's basically writing about what it means to be an African-American man living in America at the moment. What I found absolutely astounding about this book was the writing. But in terms of the content, it's him talking about the racial conflict in America, and just sort of how much racial conflict there was in the past and how it doesn't seem to have really changed right now. He's talking about sort of how he grew up and sort of what was happening when he was growing up, when he was at university, down to what is happening at the time as he's writing this. At this particular time, there is the murder of a boy named Michael Brown, and I think he's writing it at the time when it's just been told, I guess, that to people that his killers are going to go free. I'm not sure at all what happened in that case. I'm not sure if it was a case of police brutality or anything like that, but he's just basically writing about how this has happened repeatedly through history. I guess the one thing I really liked about this book is the fact that it talks very honestly about racism in America, but I just don't feel like it points fingers. It talks a lot about his experience growing up. So there's a personal element in there, but there's also the non-fiction element in there of, you know, things that have actually genuinely happened, but it's not a sort of book that's pointing the finger at white people saying that this is all their fault. He's just talking about actual incidents that have occurred and how the media reacted to them, how people in the area reacted to them. And I think the element of it being a personal letter to his son means that it doesn't have to be this huge sort of diatribe against racists in America. It's a letter that he's writing to his son, which he hopes his son will be able to sort of read and recognise that, you know, there is going to be change at some point, but these things have happened repeatedly through history. I don't want to talk about this book anymore because I really want people to read it, but I guess the one thing that I love about this book is the writing. The writing is absolutely breathtaking. The way he weaves words together is phenomenal, and I think it's because it's not completely non-fiction, it's also including that personal element to his son. You sort of feel the, I guess, loving tones in there, but you also sort of feel the fact that he doesn't want to filter anything for his son, but at the same time he doesn't want to scare his son. So there's no vengeance in this book, there's no harshness in this book. It's really, you know, a father writing a letter to his son, talking very frankly and honestly about, you know, what his life is like and what he thinks like life is going to be like for his son. And then also it just so happens that he's talking very brutally and honestly about racism in America. So yes, the construction of each paragraph, like honestly, I have gone back to look and I know he has written some fiction books. I'm definitely going to read them because if his fiction books are anything like what this is like in terms of the sentence structures, the paragraphs, how he just sort of stitches words together, then I know I'm really going to enjoy his writing. But honestly, the way he articulates things in here, the composure that is running through this book is, you know, they're just levels that I hope to achieve in life one day when I'm speaking, when I'm writing, in any way, shape or form, because I thought this book was brilliantly written, articulated so well, and absolutely loved it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is this graphic novel, Monstress. This is volume 1, so this is The Awakening. I really enjoy this graphic novel series. I think I gave it a 4 or 5 out of 5. I will leave my Goodreads link down below so you can sort of see my Goodreads and see what I rate stuff throughout the month, but I really enjoyed this. This was described to me as beautifully rendered violence, and I think that's an apt description. Wow, can't speak. The artwork in this is incredibly, like, detailed but insanely beautiful. And I was just really surprised by how much I actually genuinely loved it, like how much I warmed to the characters and how much I sort of developed a bond with the characters. And I think that's mainly because you get to see the characters. So if you're not attached to them in the way of how they speak, you're attached to them in the way of how they look. And I definitely have a favourite. My favourite is this wolf Kipper, because she's absolutely adorable. Or is she a fox? No, she's definitely a wolf. Anyway, this is a graphic novel that is set in Asia in like the 1900s, and it follows this main character, Micah, I think it definitely is, Wolf, who is just basically on a quest. She's on a journey. And it's so funny because this is so far from any book that I would really read. I don't really read books where characters set out on journeys. So she's on a journey, she's searching for something. And what book about someone going on a journey would not be complete if they didn't have sidekicks, if they didn't pick up people along the way who were willing to help their cause? So she sort of, the book opens, the novel opens with her being sold into slavery. And you're like, crap, but you quickly find out that this is where she wants to be because she has a plan. And because of this opening, she sort of stumbles across one of her sidekicks, which is Kipper. And Kipper's just like, you're a bit scary, but you're kind of really badass, and I will probably die without you, so I'm just going to stick to you like glue. And then there's also a cat, Master Wren. I'm really not sure how Master Wren finds them. I really can't remember now, but he also tags along, but you're very unsure of like what side Master Wren is on. You know, there's like one scene he's, you know, fighting for their cause, and the next scene he's trying to stab them in the back or God knows what. So you know the wolf is good, but you're unsure of what Master Wren's plans are. And Master Wren is a cat, which I absolutely love. There's this element of cats that these other creatures that, I don't know, I don't really know what their function is in this world, but there are a bunch of gorgeous cats in this, and I'm very happy about that. So like I said, it opens with that scene of Micah being sold, and you know, she quickly like busts out of there, and it's all just sort of, that's where the story goes on from there. So what you find out from this sort of volume is that a huge war has occurred, and I guess people are still trying to piece together their lives from the war. Sides have been drawn, everyone's trying to live a very peaceful life. However, Micah is on a journey. She's searching for something that her mother was searching for before her mother died. She's quite unsure of what that is. So just picking up on the clues that her mum has left behind for her, that's it. She's off on this journey to sort of piece together her life, I guess. She was a victim of the war, so she was put in some sort of camp, and you quickly find out that there are different sort of people on this world. So there's Micah, who is part human, part another sort of race. There's the race of cats, there's the race of wolves. There's many different races in here, basically. There is a map that sort of talks about all the different, I guess, races, which comes more towards like 3/4 of the book, so it's not very helpful in the beginning when you're like, who is who and who's on what side. But essentially this just really lays the platform and lays the foundation for the rest of the stories. I found it very easy to get through. I found that it made me laugh in places. I thought the artwork was absolutely stunning. And I found it very, very easy to get through, like very easy to understand. Yeah, I really couldn't knock this. There were so many interesting things happening, and it left a lot of things unresolved so that you could stay interested for the next volume. So moving on from that, we have volume 2, which is called The Blood. So obviously this is just a continuation of volume 1. This time Micah, Kipper and Master Wren are all on the front. So yes, they have embarked further into their journey. Now they've really like sort of gotten into the meaty stuff, and you know, they've found like her uncle or someone who is some sort of tiger, and they're going to some sort of forbidden island where loads of ghosts inhabit the island. I'm not gonna lie, this one I felt was very, I don't want to say weak, but I just didn't feel it was as good as the first volume. And the reason for that is because you're traveling with them, and you know, they're moving to this new world where, you know, they're trying to sort of piece together what her mum was looking for. But whilst it's doing that, it's sort of just flitting from scene to scene. You know, it's flitting from Micah to another person to another person. And again, you're really not sure who these people are. So I feel like what this book has done is it's taken for granted that you know a lot of the stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know who this person is, and I have just read volume 1. Like, my memory's bad, but it's not that bad. So I think there's a lot of taking for granted that you will assume certain things have happened, and I'm not that imaginative. I can't assume that certain things have happened. I need them to be detailed down for me to be like, yes, this has happened. So yeah, there's a lot of huge chunks that I feel like it just skips over, and I'm just like, why is this happening? But essentially the main focus is the fact that they're travelling to this forbidden island, they've stumbled upon it, they found, I don't want to ruin too much of the story, but they found like this piece of a mask, which has essentially sort of, I guess, awoken this monster in Micah, so hence the title Monstress. I'm not sure if the rest of the sort of volumes are going to sort of delve into this topic of, you know, the monster inside you, but essentially Micah, and it's in the first one as well, has developed this sort of monster which I think is trying to eat her alive. I'm not really sure if that's where the story's going to go, so I don't consider that a spoiler because it might not happen that way. And yeah, she's battling with this monster who's also very much alive and speaking to her, and this monster is hungry. Like, this monster just be killing people all the time, and she can't control the monster inside of her. So it's trying to explore something. You know, I don't know if it's going to turn around and be like, you know, trying to explore that monster inside all of us. I don't really know if that's the angle it's going for, but there's all of that happening. Meanwhile, she's, you know, still around the wolf and still around Master Ray, and it just all seems kind of dangerous because it's like she can't control this thing, so this thing could eat them at any time. I didn't find this one as enjoyable. Even just picking it up, I just noticed that it's actually quite thinner than the other one. I did enjoy it because there was a lot of the monster talking, and honestly it was talking to other monsters, and I was just like, I'm not really here for this supernatural life, and I'm also not very interested. Also because adding in the monster added in this other element of another race, and I was just like, how many races are there in this place? Like, it's a lot. It's really a lot. It's a lot to keep track of. But honestly, the imagery is gorgeous, and there are some really funny parts in here, and I think that's what saves it. You look at all these images and you're just like, this is stunning. The story develops, but I think it develops too fast, and like I said, for me, I felt like it was just skipping over bits. I'm going to quickly talk about this poetry collection before I move on to talk about one of the books that I read. So this is a debut collection by Rupinder, Kaur, and it's called Rooh. It's produced by Verve Poetry Press. I hauled this back last year and I was super excited to read it, and it just really didn't match with my expectations that I had for it. But I'm also not that annoyed about it, so I gave it a 2 out of 5, and there's just various reasons for that. I felt like overall the collection wasn't that great. The collection of poems weren't that great, and I don't know if that's because it covers a wide range of themes, and if it should have just been stripped down to cover a certain amount of themes, or at least there should have been sections in the book like this is covering this bit and this is covering that bit. I don't know, but they just felt like there were some really sort of amateur poems in there, and to be fair, this is her first collection, and I feel like with a bit more shaping up of, you know, her poems, a bit more editing, like her poetry is going to be banging. But I just sort of read this, and I feel like some of this is also to do with like my course. I can see a lot of things that I'm picking up from my course. I'm just like, I just don't like this because it could have been like this. She writes a lot about her heritage and what it's like being, I guess, a first generation kid, and a lot of that was great for me. I found it so relatable. I found sort of the strength that she took to sort of identify herself as both, and sort of talk about how it is a struggle when you're sort of battling two identities, but you're living in a Western country, but then your heritage is completely something different that doesn't really match or sit with those, and then again you're first generation, so you're trying to make sense of who you are, and then like what you're supposed to be and what your parents want you to be. I thought that was all brilliant. Like, those ideas were really shone through in here, and she really, like, she mixes Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu and English in this poem, in her poems, and I didn't mind that because right next to the Urdu words or Punjabi words or anything like that, is the English word, so it was really easy to read. It didn't distract from reading the poetry overall. Those are my thoughts on the collection overall. I just felt like there with a bit more refining and probably like a second collection. Her second collection will be awesome. But the other issues I have with it are not issues with the content. They're more issues with, I guess, the production values. And I wrote some stuff down because I just needed to remember them. But for me, one of the things I didn't like about this was the layout of the poems. All the poems were crammed in one after the other. There's not like, one's not on a page and then, you know, there's an empty space and then there's that. And I can probably understand why that's been done, because I'm sure Verve Poetry Press isn't a huge publisher, and, you know, paper costs money. So if you want to produce loads of her poems, definitely get them all on the page. But I feel like as a reader, and from what I sort of come to expect from poetry books, like I just don't feel like that's the best way to do it, because then you're reading poems that sort of stop halfway through here and then start a new poem there. I just am quite fond of it being on one page. And then there's things like this where this poem is obviously ended here and they just put the star there, and it's just like, there's no need for that, because there's another star here. It's just things like that. I don't really understand like what the typesetter might have been thinking. And then that's another thing that I'm also really not impressed with. I particularly am going to refer to one page, on page 45, where a poem, which it looked really nice in the beginning, and I don't know how well you would actually be able to see that. Yeah, you can see well. So it's starting with a sort of one line there, goes to a line there, drops to the next line. However, it obviously comes to this section where she's got more words that can't fit into this bit. So they dropped it down, made it onto this new line, but then once this line is supposed to start, instead of it starting more to the, what are we looking at? To the right, yeah, to the right, it just starts right underneath there. And I just feel like that is just such lazy typesetting. It throws off the format of the whole poem. Something that was meant to, I guess, look a certain way now doesn't. It just looks really jumbled and it just looks really lazy. But I don't know if that's just personal preference, and I know I'm sort of picking up these things as well because like these are sort of things you pick up on when you're doing like a publishing course. But yeah, there were just some issues in terms of layout, typesetting, that I was just a bit like, this is really detracting from the reading experience for me. And as much as I can be like, okay, I know they don't have as much money as other publishers, at the end of the day, as a reader, I'm still going to expect a certain sort of quality. But I still will, if she releases a second collection, I will still buy it, because I think there's a lot of important things that she talks about, and I didn't hate it. I just found certain issues with it. The final book I'm going to talk about is Conversations with Friends. My friend lent me this, so I was able to read it. Sally Rooney is all the rage right now. I think I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. I wanted to give it more because I thought this book was going to be amazing. Everyone's been talking about it, like loads of booktubers that I follow, that I really sort of respect their opinion, really liked it. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to really like this book. Then I read it and I was just like, pardon? What am I reading right now? And I don't know if, because this is the conversation I had with my friend, I don't know if Normal People is the book that's actually really, really good, and then obviously following from the fact that she released a second book, this book just gets loads of hype as well. But honestly, I was very disappointed and bored by this book. I just kept waiting for there to be something really exciting, and there was nothing, which is fine. I always say this about books that aren't really like plot heavy. A book doesn't have to be plot heavy, but if you're not going to be plot heavy, then you need to have something else, and this book had nothing. And I struggle again with like contemporary books, because when you're reading something that's contemporary, you're really trying to, I guess, match it to your experience. At least that's what I do. So, you know, I did try to be like, you know, these are white females in Dublin, like, or wherever they were from. They were in Dublin, just from different parts of Ireland. This is, you know, one of the girls didn't identify as middle class, so she still was working class. I really tried to, you know, think about the proximity to me and how, you know, this is actually contemporary but completely different to the life you live. But what I didn't like about it, so there's the main character Frances and then her girlfriend / ex-girlfriend Bobby, and it's just this annoying thing of Frances is the kind of girl that just, you know, she's just on this one level. What you see is basically what you get. There's nothing too exciting about her, there's nothing too revolutionary about her, fine. Bobby is the it girl, you know, not it in the sense that she's super popular or anything like that. Her and Frances are still sort of the outcast, but you know, everyone really likes Bobby, everyone wants to be Bobby. And her and Bobby is sort of a spoken word duo. Frances writes all the stuff and Bobby just helps her perform it. Fucking weird, but okay. And they end up meeting this couple, Nick and Melissa. And basically Frances starts an affair with Nick, and it's sort of implied that Melissa and Bobby start an affair. At first you just have all of these affair stuff going on, and it's just, honestly, the whole book felt like filler. The whole book felt like filler for another book. It was just boring to read. I don't care about he wasn't even middle-aged, to be honest with you. He was like 35, maybe that is middle-aged, man who is unhappy in his marriage because maybe his wife is a little bit too mossy, so starts having an affair with a younger girl. The thing is, he doesn't even take the lead in the affair, which is the weird part for me. I'm just like, are you just that drippy and pathetic? Like, he was so boring. The worst character by far out of all of them. So goddamn boring. I was just like, dude. And he was like some sort of actor, but semi-successful actor. And it's just, the story is so jarring and draining. And I was just like, why am I reading about a bunch of boring people? Like, that's what the book felt like. I was just reading a book about a bunch of boring people. And I also felt like she might have realised at some point that this book was super boring, so then was like, I'm going to bring in some issues that, you know, are quite prevalent to Ireland right now, so then, or like quite like in the media, and, you know, affecting women. So then there's a touch on the fact that one of the main characters thinks that she might be pregnant, and then therefore, is she miscarrying or should she have an abortion? And then the character finds out that she has endometriosis. I think I'm saying that correctly. I have nothing against including these things in a book, absolutely nothing. It felt like, though, it was just included because, oh, this book is a bit boring, but let's bring some sort of issues that, you know, are in the media right now. Because, again, it's not like it's an exploration of how her life is with that. The girl didn't even know she had it, and then when she found out she had it, it was like, oh, okay, another thing to add to my really sad, complicated life. Honestly, I don't even feel like I need to talk about the book significantly because it's receiving all the hype. You probably know what it's about. I just felt like it was a book I would have read as a teenager and probably enjoyed as a teenager. But I didn't see what was so spectacular about it. I get the fact that it's called Conversations with Friends, so it's supposed to be that sort of, you know, one level, not very plot heavy driven book, but honestly, I could care less about the lives of unhappy middle-class people. I don't even know why I gave it 2. I should have just given it 1. I think I just don't really like rating books 1. If Goodreads gave me an option for a 1.5, I would be there with a 1.5. But those are the books that I read in the month of February. If you've read any of these books, do let me know what you thought about them. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!